So today's lesson is all about Bidmas, and Bidmas is about the order of operations. So it's the order in which we need to do a calculation to get the right answer. Now your calculators are actually programmed with Bidmas, so a way to check if you're getting this right is to actually type it into your calculator, and that will do the calculation correctly for you. However, the bad news is that most of the time when you're going to be tested on this, it will be when you don't have a calculator. So you can use it to practice, but you still need to know the rules of Bidmas. Now, just to start today's lesson off then, I've got a question on the board, and the question is, what is the correct answer? So I've put a sum here, and the sum is 3 plus 4 times 2, and I've got two possible answers. A is 14 and B is 11. Now, most adults who will have done this at school have probably forgotten if they don't use it a lot, and will most likely, I believe, get it wrong. So you can check with your mums and dads at home, ask them the question once you know the answer and see whether they get it right or not. It's a good little test. So let's go through what Bidmas is, and then we can look at what the correct answer is to this question, and then I've got a couple more to do with you. So Bidmas stands for brackets, indices, division, multiplication, addition and subtraction. So it's just a way of remembering those words, but it still really doesn't make it clearer, I don't think, at this precise moment in time what it's all about. But I fundamentally believe that this is one of the most important things you'll learn in maths. It underpins almost everything you do. Even if you go on to do A-level maths or maths at university, you need to know about the order of operations. It comes into so many different branches. So let me talk through what they stand for. So B, as I said, is brackets. Now I think that kind of makes sense, because if you're putting brackets in a calculation, you're putting them there for a reason, and you're basically saying, you're telling the person who's reading the sum, I want you to do this bit first. If you didn't have brackets, then it wouldn't make sense. You're putting them in there for that particular reason. So brackets has to be the first priority. In any calculation, if there are brackets, they get done first. Now I'm going to put a little line across here, because brackets very much go on their own. The next one is indices. Now in today's lesson, I'm not really going to be dealing with indices, but in a later lesson I will. Now indices is about powers. It's another word for powers, but square roots also come into that. Now if you're a bit older and you're doing GCSE maths, you'll know that indices, a square root can be written as an index or as a power, okay? But if you're younger, then you won't have learned that yet. But just suffice it to say, the square roots, powers, they all come under indices. Now I'm going to put another line under here, because again, indices comes into its own. It's got its own little category. So the first thing we look for is brackets, second thing we look for is indices. Then the next order that we look for is division and multiplication. Now you'll notice that I've separated out the colours, and I've done that on purpose, because actually division and multiplication, although we say the word Bidmas, okay, it could have been Bimdas. It wouldn't have made any difference, although that sounds a bit more funny. These two things, if you like, they're on the same level. So if you've got a calculation that's just got division and multiplication in it, you just read it like you would a book. You just read from left to right, and you do it in that order. So they're of the same level, all right? So there's no difference between them. And the same is also true for addition and subtraction. They're of the same level, but unfortunately, addition and subtraction are right at the bottom of the pecking order. They're the last thing that we do. But if you had a sum that's just got addition and subtraction in it, you read from left to right, and that is how you do the calculation, okay? So, with that in mind, let's look at this sum that I've written on the board here. 3 plus 4 times 2. Now if we didn't consider order of operations at all, and we just did the sum as it is, we would do 3 plus 4, and we would get 7, and then times that answer by 2. So 7 times 2 is 14, and that would give us this number here, 14. However, following Bidmas, which is the correct thing to do, we realise in this sum the first thing that needs to happen is the multiplication, okay, because it comes before addition and subtraction, and so we must do 4 times 2, that is 8, and then we do 3 plus 8, which is 11, so the correct answer is 11. I wonder if you got that right at home. If you did, well done. Okay, so we've got questions here now. So I've got 3 questions here, and then I've got another 2 which are a bit more complicated, which we can look at afterwards. So this is how I recommend you set out your Bidmas questions. And once you get a bit more used to it, you don't have to put so many lines of work in, but certainly when you're first doing this, or if you find it difficult, you need to write out lots of working so that you can see each step. And I would do 1 thing per line of working so that it's nice and clear. So the first question then, 6 plus 2 minus 3 times 2. So we look across and we look at the operations. So the operations is the plus, the minus, the multiply and divide, or if there are any indices or brackets. Now there are no brackets, there are no indices, so the first thing that we come to is this level here, and we have a multiplication. So that's this here, 3 times 2, so we have to do that first. Now what I recommend you do is you write out the sum again, but on the next line of working you work out anything that you can do first. So I'm going to work out 3 times 2, and that's just 6. So I'm going to write 6 plus 2, take away, and instead of 3 times 2 I'm going to write 6. But everything else you'll notice I've copied exactly. I've only done the multiplication. Now we look at the sum that's left, and we've only got addition and subtraction, and so I can just now work from left to right. So you can either do it in one go, or you can separate it out further and just do the first bit and then get that result and then do the last bit. So let's do more lines of working. 6 plus 2 is 8, so I'm going to write that underneath, and I'm going to copy down the last bit, minus 6, and when you get to a point when you can just do it, put your equal sign and give the answer. 8 take away 6 is 2, and there's your answer. Okay, nice and simple and straightforward. So see what I did, each line I'm doing 1 thing at a time, okay, and when I reach a point where I've got everything at the same level, we just go left to right. So question number 2, 3 plus 4 times 6 minus 8. So we look across here, the thing that has to happen first is the multiplication, so the 4 times 6. So I'm going to write everything else down as it is. 3 plus, now I'm going to work that bit out. 4 times 6 is 24, take away 8, okay? And now I've just got addition and subtraction, so I can just work from left to right, but if you feel more comfortable doing 1 step at a time, then do that. 3 plus 24 is 27, take away 8, and the answer is 19. Okay? Right, third question. We have 15 take away 4 times, in brackets, 12 take away 9. So now we've got brackets. So because we've got brackets, that's our most important operation, so we must do that first. So copy everything else down. 15 take away 4 times, now 12 take away 9 is 3, so we're going to write 3. On our next line we do the next important operation, which is the multiplication. So 4 times 3 is 12, and we're left with 15 take away 12, and 15 take away 12 is just 3. And so there we have our answer. Okay, so just as I say, each line do a new step and then it keeps it nice and simple. So I've got another 2 examples for you just to show you how to do it when you've got more things going on, but really the steps are exactly the same. So the first one is, so this is number 4, 2 times 7 take away 2 divided by 16 minus 11. Now, what I will say about this one, okay, we've got the times, we've got a divide, but we've got two brackets. Now, because we've got two brackets in there and they're kind of separated by this operation, what we can do to save ourselves a bit of time is we can do the brackets both in one go on our next line of working, okay? So what I mean by that is this. So I'm going to copy out the 2 times, I'm going to do 7 take away 2, which is 5, and these two don't interfere with each other, so I can also do 16 take away 11, which is also 5, okay? And now I've got multiplication and division, and that's all I've got, so I can just work left to right. 2 times 5 is 10, divided by 5, and 10 divided by 5 is 2, okay? So that one, it looked horrible, but turns out to be a little bit nicer than we thought. Right, next one. Last question. 54 plus brackets 7 times 8 minus 10, close brackets, plus 32. Now what we've got in this question is we have brackets, but within the brackets we have to apply Bidmas. Because although that has to happen first, within the brackets we've also got a multiply and a subtraction. So we must remember to apply Bidmas. So obviously we need to calculate the bracket first. So we have 54 plus. Now, because there's more than one operation in here, I'm going to keep the bracket in for the time being. And I'm going to do my multiplication inside the bracket first because that comes before subtraction. 7 times 8 is 56, take away 10, and then I'm going to put my plus 32 outside. Okay, now I've got to finish off my bracket, so I have 54 plus, now 56 take away 10 is 46, and then I've got plus 32. And now we've just got plus and plus, so we can just work from left to right. Now, this is quite a nice situation. 54 plus 46 equals 100. I do like it when the numbers match together lovely. Plus 32, and that is really nice and easy to add up. So we end up with 132. So there we have it. That is how you do the order of operations. So remember, what I would say is the most important thing is to remember the levels, and each time you're doing a calculation, take one new line for every new thing that you have to do when you're doing the order of operations.